All right, guys, Radio Man here, and try not to do too many goofy videos. I'll try to also talk about some other more in-depth stuff. What we have here actually it's a Motorola R-390, not an R-390A that I picked up quite a few years ago. It's a general coverage receiver. It was used by the military. I think it was replaced. Don't you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was replaced like in the mid 50s with the R390A version, which they liked it so much, but they wanted it to be made cheaper. So they reduced some things into it, and these are almost people that are into these argue about them like clocks, which is better, the 390 or the 390A. Um, I think these were considered classified technology somewhere through like the 60s. I've read someone said up until the 80s. I don't believe that. But at least um, I know that much. So there are grab handles on here that are not in place because it will not fit in my cabinet. I am not a restorer, but I did restore this to a certain extent. Like you can see, whoever previously owned this, there was some sort of impact damage that hit here and here. I think it uses about 26 tubes. It's like super heterodyne triple conversion. These are still considered the benchmark of receivers. It receives like 500 kilohertz up to like 32 megahertz. You have, and they use these AM, RIDI, FSK. You can do sideband on them with a little bit of practice. Selectable bandwidths. At the time, this technology, yes, we have all this in SDR, but a lot of this technology was pretty cutting edge. Supposedly these were used well beyond the 80s, which I've heard, because of their ability to survive in strong RF fields. And the receivers on these are still considered phenomenal to this day. When these were originally designed around the time of World War II, the Allies were more focused on receiver performance, and the Axis were more focused on transmitters. And we were receiving SIGINT from the Axis at distances that they didn't think was possible, because we invested more into receiver technology than transmitter technology. So when the government puts out a contract for these, many companies made these. This one was made by Motorola. I think there was a company called Steinhardt. There was like Cape Hart, Collins. There was a bunch of companies that you could make these under contract. This does work. I bought it off a guy. I think it belonged to his dad. It was stored in a shed. I can show you here. The wire harness had been eaten by an animal, and I had to repair that. That was the only thing I saw when I bought it. Everything looked complete, but it was dirty. So I did a full teardown. As you can see, these are built like a watch. I'll show you as I tune. I took all these gears out, and I washed them. And I took all the decks out, and I washed them. And all these gears are re-lubed with synthetic greases and oils. So all this stuff operates very smoothly. When I did the complete teardown and rebuild, I soda blasted the front panel and repainted it. I refilled. These are engraved, and I repaint filled them. Over the years, I've chipped paint off, as you can see. I do use this. What you can do is on the back panel of these, there's a section called diode load. You can see right there. You can feed that into a stereo amplifier, and it'll just sound like $1 million. In terms of when I rebuilt it, I bought a balun. There's a gentleman that manufactures a balun. This is what's called a twin axe connector. It's not 50 ohm. Well, anyways, so this balun just converts to 50 ohms. I did a solid state, I'll flip it over and show you later, solid state power supply that just plugs into the tube socket. I did replace a few caps and resistors in the audio deck that had worn out over time from age. All these decks here, let me get a pen. See these green screws here? So these modules all come out, and a serviceman at, you know, wherever these were being used, they would replace modules in the field, and then the modules would get sent back to a repair depot. So you could see, typically it'd be like 4 screws to get a module out, and they made them green. And you could, in the field, you would just change out a module, and then you would have spare modules, and these would go back to a repair facility where the modules would be troubleshot and repaired. So the only thing I found when I took this apart was there was a bad solder joint over here in the IF deck. Like I said, I cleaned out all the gears. I cleaned out all the decks. I replaced this wire harness. Repainted everything here. It functions and behaves like new. Let me flip it over and I'll show you the bottom side. So same thing on the bottom side. The decks just come out. As you can see up there in the corner, there's a green screw. I took all of these decks out. Everything was cleaned. These gears all have to be resynchronized. There's a whole procedure. I have all the manuals. You basically lock the deck in place when you take it apart, and then you put it back. Typically, you don't have to do much if you can lock it. And this is the back of it here. So yeah, I have the power cable for this, obviously. Here's where your antenna, there's a tool kit that goes here. I don't have the tool kit for it. See, there's also something here, part of the tube kit. Spare fuses in the back. That's basically the back of it. Let me go flip it back over. So what was revolutionary about this is when it first came out, as you can see, it's an analog. It's analog, as you can see, all the gears. It's mechanical, but it's I think it's called like a digital. I don't know the right term for it, guys, but it's a digital display. But obviously, it's all mechanical, as you can see. This was pretty revolutionary at the time when it came out. The other thing too is that this receiver, when I turn this knob to change the different bands, see, we go 4 megahertz, 5 megahertz. I'll show you what's happening up here. Is that see how that comes up like that? So every time you change bands, you're basically peaking the receiver for that frequency range. So that's where that's part of why this thing performs so well. And as you can see, it's very important that all these gears work in harmony, so that the correct tuning slugs come up into place, and then these all have to be adjusted. This was quite a job. I had a local ham help me with this. I mean, the manuals are written in such a way that you can do it, but I wanted everything to function. You know, everything works on it. I'm not ever interested in selling it. I don't care that my restoration isn't perfect. What I did care about is that it looked decent and that it functioned. You know, I can put it on WWV and I can check the receiver on it. But I wanted to show you guys this. I mean, yes, it can receive CB, but it's I wanted to try to do some other videos that aren't just kind of like goofy or, hey, this is what I'm up to today. I wanted to show you something a little bit different. What's out there? It's big. It weighs about 85 pounds. It's heavy. I don't like moving it around. I mean, I put it on this table for the video for you guys, but it's a pain in the ass. Oh, and I did any mods that I did. There's this guy, he's out of Germany. They're all plug-in mods. Anything that got solid stated, it's a tube like this. So I didn't rip out any jacks out of this thing. Anything I did where I replaced the tube and I solid stated it, I still retain the original tube socket. Not that I care, I'm going to own this thing forever, but I really didn't want to hack it apart. I felt it was kind of sacrilege for such an incredible piece of radio history.